Be'ezus Hashem, today's daf is Masechta Baba Basra, daf Lamed Hay, and we're going to start from daf Lamed Daled Amid Beis by Zeh Oimer Shalavoisai. Okay, it's like 3 lines from the bottom of daf Lamed Daled Amid Beis.
Okay.
This is very good. So here is a sigya. Zeh Oimer Shalavoisai. You have a field. Each one, this guy says, this belonged to my father, and I inherited it. Okay. And this one says, the field belonged to my father, and I inherited it. And nobody is bringing proof that it's theirs. So how do you paskin like this? I mean, there's a disagreement, and there's no way for each one of them to bring proof that what they're saying is the So Omar Rav Nachman, so this is a very strange thing. Rav Nachman said, the Bezdin this doesn't even enter the courts. And so how do you decide? Kol da'olam, whoever is going to be stronger, Gavar, will win the case. In other words, if somebody is, moves in onto the property and starts building, and he has money and hires security guards and whatever, then he wins. And the other guy just has to stand back and never repossess that property. Because we assume that the person who it really belongs to is going to sacrifice everything to get the property. And therefore, that's how the case is decided. Sometimes Bezdin, the courts can't decide such a case. They don't know how to decide such a case because it's not about evidence-based. It's about who is going to sacrifice himself to stand his ground, to say that the land is his and take action on that. So that's what the case is. Each one said that the field belonged to his father. So Rav Nachman says, Kol da'alim gevar, whoever is stronger is going to win the case. So the Gemara says, so is that a universal situation? The Gemara's question here is, whenever Bezdin cannot decide what to do, right? There's no impossible for a court to have a court case because it's going to be always undecided, right? So are you going to say that the one that is going to overpower and is stronger is going to win the case? Let us see the following story. Umay Shno, why is Rav Nachman's case any different than the following? Mishnei Shtoris, Hayotzim b'yom echad. 2 documents, gift documents, that say that so-and-so gave a gift. But there are 2 documents. One document says the gift went to Reuven, and one document says the gift went to Shimon. And they both were dated for that one day. One day. As they had the same date on it. So now you don't know who does the piece of land, let's say it was a piece of land, who does it belong to? There are 2 documents that both Reuven and Shimon are pulling out and saying that so-and-so gave them the gift. So what do you do in such a case? So we go to the top of Daf Lamed Hey Amid Aleph. So there we have another machlekes. The Rav says Yachaloiku. Rav says you should actually split it. Okay, split it. Each one will take 50% of the property in question. Shmuel says Shuda de Dayone. That ends the question. Shmuel says that it's up to the Bezdin to decide who was the real friend of this person that's gifting it. Was it Reuven or was it Shimon? Because one of them, we don't know, maybe is fake, right? Obviously, maybe it's a fake document. So it's up to Bezdin to decide who would be more of a friend to the person gifting it. And then that is the common sense way to decide the case. The court will say, oh, you win. That's what Shmuel says. Obviously, Taisus points out that in case Bezdin cannot decide who was a closer friend, Taisus's opinion is that it's Bezdin to decide who they like better. Basically, it's a toss up, and the court can decide who they want to give to. So if a person has a friend who's a judge, maybe he'll win this case. But anyway, what you don't see is between Rav and Shmuel is the concept of kol da'olim gevar. whoever is stronger should win the case. So the question is, why didn't Rav and Shmuel both say Kol Da'olam Gvar? This is not something that can be decided by Bezdin, right? So therefore, let us say that the one that is stronger, the one that has more security and sacrifice to take possession of the property, he's going to win the case. And they don't say that. So what's the difference between this case and the case of Zeh Shoyme Shalavoisai v'Zeh Shoyme Shalavoisai? And so the Gemara answers a very interesting case. Hasa, Hasa over there by the case of Zeh Omer Shalavoisai. You have a case where there are two fields. There's one field, and each one is saying, "Oh, this belonged to my father," and this one said, "This belonged to my father." Right? So then you say, "Kol da'olam gvar." Why? Leikim lemekim Allah de milsa, which means that it could forever remain undecided, because you don't really know. You can never know whose father it was. There's no the Adim. There was no Adim. It's just a story that they're both telling over. It's the same story, so it could remain forever undecided. And in that case, then you say that Kol Da'olam Givar, whoever is the stronger one, he could win the case. And therefore, whoever's going to just sit himself and squat in the property and start building a fence around the property, he's going to win. It's his. But the case over here, where Reuven and Shimon bring a document, and each one says in the document that they're the one that was gifted this field, Ika lemekim Allah de milsa. It's possible that there could be a result. Why? Because Reuven and Shimon both have the document, and it says the same day on it. However, maybe Adam will come and say, "Oh, yours is false," or this one really got the document before the other one. So it's possible that it could lead to a result. It could lead to a conclusion. So therefore, you don't say Kol Da'olam Gvar. There, the courts will step in, either according to Rav Yachlaiku, or according to Shmuel Shuda Dedainu. The Bezdin, it's a toss-up, and Bezdin decides who was the more closer friend. So therefore, that wouldn't be this case wouldn't be a question against Rav Nachman's psak of Kol Da'olam Gvar. So now the Gemara asks another question. Umayshna, what's the difference? Why in the case of Rav Nachman you say Kol Da'olam Gvar, and I'm going to find you another case where there's a doubt and Bezdin can never decide it. Let's take a look at this case. We had this in Bava Metzia. Hamachlif para b'chamar. Someone has a cow, right? And the cow was pregnant, okay? And he wants to exchange the cow for a donkey. His friend has a donkey. So he says to the friend, I'm gonna draw your donkey. I'm gonna do mashiach on your donkey, and my cow, wherever it is, will belong to you. So basically, it's a barter. Okay. So hamach para, the guy wants to exchange his cow. He wants to exchange his cow. He wants to exchange his cow b'chamar with his friend's donkey. V'yolda. And then we find out that the cow gave birth. Now, what's the question? The question is, when the guy did Mashiach on the donkey, that means the cow belonged to the owner of the donkey. And therefore, when the donkey gave birth, the baby belongs to the owner of the donkey. Or is it possible that prior to him doing Mashiach on the Chamar, prior to the exchange, the cow gave birth? So therefore, you don't know who the baby of the cow belongs to. Does it belong to the original owner of the cow, or does it belong to the original owner of the donkey? Another case. Hamoicher shivchosai. Guy sells his maid for money, because a maid you could sell for money. Okay, so they met in shul, and the guy wrote a check and paid for the maid. Then you find out v'yolda, and the maid gave birth to a child. So did the maid give birth after the payment was made, Or did the maid give birth prior to the payment was made, and therefore belongs to the original owner of the maid? Zeh omer, the person who owns the maid or who owns the cow says, Ad shloi mecharti, prior to I sold it to you, or prior to the Mashiach of the Chamar, Yolda gave birth. So really, the baby belongs to me. The purchaser says, Mishalakachti Yolda. When I already bought it, it gave birth, and therefore the baby belongs to me. So the Brisa says, Yachaloiku, you split it, right? So like Rav said over there. So again, why don't you say called the Olam Gvar? Whoever's gonna be stronger should win. So whoever's gonna grab the baby and say, "Get back, stand back, I'm stronger," should win. And yet, no, you say Yachloik, you split it. In other words, you sell the baby, or one makes payment for half the share to the other party. So why is Rav Nachman saying Kol da Olam Gvar? So when do you say Kol da Olam Gvar? Answers the Gemara Hossam over there. Lahai, we go to Amid Beis, Lamahei Amid Beis. By there, Lahai Islay Drar de Mamayne, Ulahu Islay Drar de Mamayne. There, it's a very interesting case. Each one, it's possible that they're correct. Each one has a good reason to say that I'm correct. In other words, he can say, oh, the baby was born prior to my sale, and the other one could say the baby was born after I bought it, right? But it's possible. It's each one has a plausible reason to it. So each one has a reason to say the money belongs to them, and you could listen to two sides. But Hachar over here, Idamar, if this guy is correct and saying Sela Voisai, so that it means it belonged to my family. So then it was impossible to belong to the other guy's family because it either belonged to one or the other. Idamar, loy damar. If it belonged to my family, it doesn't belong to yours. Vidamar, if it belongs to if this guy's side, loy damar, it doesn't belong to this guy's side. So basically, by zeh oimer shalavoisai, v'zeh oimer shalavoisai. Let's think about it. If I say it belongs to my father, and you say it belongs to your father, one of us was a liar, right? And therefore, it makes sense to say that the court will say, Kol da'olim gvar, whoever sacrifices himself and takes possession and shows that he's the owner, he most likely is the owner. People sacrifice themselves if they certainly believe that it's their money. But here, each one is in doubt when we don't know when the baby was born or not. And because of that, therefore, obviously, we're going to say yachloiku, we're going to say split it. And even Shmuel is going to agree that you don't say shuda dedaini, let the Bezdin decide who is a bigger friend, because it's not possible to say shuda dedaini, that Bezdin should decide. It's something that it's unknown. It's a total unknown over here. And because of that, therefore, you say yachloiku. But in the case of Rav Nachman is a case where somebody's definitely a liar, and therefore, the one that's going to overpower, he's demonstrating that he's the original owner. He's the true owner. Amrei Nardoi. Nardoi said, Ein bo echa min ashuk. Let's say a third party. Let's say two parties are having an argument. This field belongs to me. It belonged to my father. And the other one said, this field belonged to my father. So comes a third guy, and he comes in, sees these two guys arguing, and he starts moving in and putting up a fence. The third guy does it. In ba echa min ashuk behechzik ba, if somebody from the street came and took possession of the property, ein mitziin osim yadai. We don't ask him to get out, because even though he's not saying that it belonged to my father or it belonged to his father, because maybe even the two people who are arguing, so maybe both of them are liars. So this guy says it must be a hefker piece of land, and I'm moving in. So therefore, if a third guy comes and he moves in and squats there and shows ownership, then we're not going to kick him out. And he brings a proof. Nerdoi brought a proof from the following: the Tana de Rabbi Chia taught Gazlan shel Rabim lav shmei Gazlan. If someone steals from a multitude of people, he's not called a Gazlan. What did that mean? Basically, Rabbi Chia didn't explain himself, but what the Nerdoi people understood from Rabbi Chia was that it's our case that he stole from two people who have an argument. This one says it's mine, and this one says it's mine, and therefore loish be gazlan. He's not called a gazlan to force the judges to kick him out because he's not a gazlan. Because perhaps the two people who are arguing, both of them are lying with each other, and therefore this third guy can move in and show ownership. So says Nehardoi. Comes along Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, "La'olam shmei gazlan." Really, he is a gazlan, and therefore he's stealing, and therefore we do kick him out, and we ask him now. It's as strange as it sounds to return the property to one of the two people, and since he can't return the property to one of the two people, he has to pay both of them, and that's Rav Ashi is going to explain what Rav Chia meant to say. What Rav Chia meant to say is that he's not a gazlan, means that a normal gazlan knows who he stole from. So in order to do tshuva, you return the item from the person you stole from. Here he stole from one of two people, but he doesn't know who he actually stole from. Therefore, he's going to have to make payment to both of them. You can't just return it. In order for this person to do tshuva, he's going to have to move off the property, give the property up to one person, and pay money to the other party, and that's what Rab Chia meant. Lo shmei gazlan. So it's a very on two ends of a seesaw between the machlokes between Nehardoi and Rav Ashi. Comes along. Let's do another piece of the Gemara, and then we'll stop. We learned in the Mishnah that what makes a chazaka. A chazaka means that you don't have to hold on to the purchase document that you bought a property, provided that you were on that property for 3 straight years, right? In order to make a chazaka, it has to be 3 straight years from day to day. Amar Rab Abba. Rab Abba said sometimes a chazaka can happen right away, and you don't even have to keep the purchase document. A chazaka could take effect right away. You don't have to wait the 3 years. How's the case? If the one who claims that it was his property, if we have witnesses that he helped, Sana de Pere, he helped you load fruits to help you carry home bags of fruit from that property to your house. Well, why is he doing that? It must be that he agreed that he sold you the property, and it's your property. He's just doing you a favor, helping you carry your load back to your house. So if we see that even any time during the first 3 years that the ma'arer, the one that's making the complaint, did that to the muhsik, to the guy that even before he had the chazaka, to the guy that's on the property, he helped him carry the fruits from the property to his house, la'alter have chazaka, and right away it becomes he's the owner. Right away he becomes the owner, because that's the ultimate proof that you agreed that he is the owner. Amar Rav Zvid said, how do you know? Not always that case. If he claimed and said like this, I helped him carry those fruits back to his house, but he was my worker and I paid him with fruits. Sometimes you can pay your worker with a salary, and sometimes there's an arrangement where he takes part of the profits of the fruits. So he was my worker, and he came down to work my field to get payment in fruits. So therefore, Naaman, then he's believed to say that, and therefore it wouldn't be a chazaka right away if that's what he said. But that it only works during the 3 years. He can say that was my worker, and that's why I helped him carry his fruits home. But really, the property belongs to me. But after 3 years, right? And we have proof after 3 years that he was helping this guy carry the fruits back to his house. He's not believed to say that he was my worker, because obviously 3 years passed, and this is the only time they're helping this worker carry the fruits back to his field, back to his house. So it must be you're not telling the truth. You actually sold the property to this person that was on the field, and although he doesn't have the purchase proof to say that, but you didn't say anything for the first 3 years. So therefore, we give the right to the field to the person who is on the property currently. Amalei Rav Ashi Rav Kahana. So Rav Ashi said to Rav Kahana, maybe he's actually saying the truth. and he had the guy go down to his field, right, for the fruits, but to get paid by fruits. But my havale lemebed, what could have the owner of the field said? In other words, the guy that's making the claim that he's the owner of the field, what should he have done? For 3 years, he didn't offer to help this guy carry fruits home. So after 3 years, he helped him. What should he have done to prove that the field was his during the first 3 years? So the Gemara says very simple. Amalei, Rav Kahana said to Rav Ashi, if somebody's on your field for at least 3 years, then there's something you could do about it. Even though you didn't kick the guy off the field, you should have filed a claim. You send a letter or something like that. You send a certified letter. Hey, I'm the owner of the field. Something you should have done. If you did nothing, it must be that you agreed that you sold the field to that person that's on the field. And this we find in other places. The Eloi Taimach, if you don't come up with that idea, Hani Mashkin de Surah, sometimes the collateral of Surah. Remember, we learned this in Masechta B'Metzia, that sometimes a person makes a loan, and they made a takana, and he gives a mashkin. Let's say he borrowed $100,000, so he gives a field to the lender and tells the lender, you can work the field, and all the profits on the field belong to you. Let's say for 5 years. After 5 years, the field comes back to me, and during those 5 years, the fruits that you had on this field that you benefited from was pay back the loan. So after 5 years, the field belongs to me. The kasabahu, which is written in this document, the loan document, the mishlim shnaya, when the years of the collateral is up, ilin tepek ara the law the land reverts back to the borrower, and he doesn't have to pay back the loan. Now, there could be a problem over here. What happens? Let's say the lender hides the loan document, because the lender holds on to the loan document until he gets paid, and he hides it. And then he'll say about this piece of land, oh, it's my land. I bought it from the borrower. And the borrower has nothing to say anything because this lender has been on his land for 5 years. So, would the lender be believed in such a case? Would the Rabbana make this a good idea of mashkina de surah, a situation which could lead to a total loss? If the lender becomes dishonest, he'll just confiscate the field instead of returning it back to the borrower. So why would the Rabbana make such a concept called mashkina de surah, that you can give somebody a collateral piece of land to pay back your loan, if this could lead to a situation where the lender is never going to give it back to the borrower? So why doesn't it lead to a loss? Ella when the borrower sees that it's during 3 years, he should just send a certified letter to the lender saying, hey, just know I'm making a protest that this is really my property and you're just holding on to it as collateral. And once you do that, then the lender cannot claim chazaka, that I've been living here and I don't have the purchase document, because they protested against him. So there's a concept of making a macha, a protest, during the years when the other guy is on your properties. So also in our case, that the person who sees somebody on his property and benefiting and carrying fruits and bringing it home, so if he sees that and it goes on for 3 years and he thinks and he claims that this person is my worker, well, if in that case, you should have made a statement about that during the first 3 years that the person is on your property. And if you don't make that statement, then we don't believe you later on after 3 years to say, oh, that was my worker and he's just getting paid in fruits. We would believe the person that is on the field if he says that I bought this field and it's mine and I lost the purchase document. Okay, we'll stop right over here and we'll continue with Lamed Vav Bez Hashem tomorrow.